Chelsea have had somewhat of a rough pre-season overall as we welcome in Shaka Hislop to join the conversation. Shaka, obviously Nkunku with a big talking point after that game. The last thing that Chelsea need is an offensive player down, an offensive player who should be so important this season.
Listen, all Chelsea's struggles last season were about goal scoring, and Nkunku, you would think, is the solution to that. I know Nicholas Jackson came in. I think he's at best as a partner of Nkunku, with the talent, with his experience. Nkunku going down, I think, affects not only Pochettino's selections, but Nicholas Jackson's form. And as a result, that's a huge step backward for Chelsea. Now, as you mentioned, Dan, we're still not quite sure the extent of the injury. But right now, Nkunku's omission is a huger blow than just the one talented player being missing. I think it has a huge knock-on effect.
Oh, Chelsea. It's the last thing they need, isn't it?
Absolutely, because it looked as though he was starting to go with Jackson up front and Nkunku playing in one of the positions behind him. The first time he's really played them together. I think that's how he probably wanted to start the season, with Sterling along there. So that would be a blow if he can't play in those early games.
The one thing, if you're Pochettino, you want to start the season with is a starting 11 that has been together, played together, and you kind of know generally what you're going to get. So when these sorts of things happen, particularly to a team like Chelsea that's desperate to try and get settled, it's an absolute nightmare. I mean,
what's plan B, Stevie?
Plan B is...
Good.
Well, the problem is they don't have a plan right now. It's hard to have a plan.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know. You know, we're talking about partnerships in particular. He hasn't been able to get partnerships defensively. It seems as though he kind of fancies Gallagher and Fernandes in the middle. Arguably, whether that's good or not, I'm not so sure. And then going up front, with Nkunku getting injured, it means he probably has to play with one up front instead of maybe playing with three. In fact, he could have played with two. So, we're 2 weeks away? And he probably still doesn't know how he's going to start.
He's had to make lots of judgments in 3 weeks on an American tour. There'll be players in his squad that he knows nothing about before he came to this. He might have had something to do with some of the younger signings or known a bit about them. But until you work with those players and start putting them in games, he'll have no idea. And now he's talking about, I've got to get rid of some of these players to get them out on loan because the squad's too big. He's making decisions on 3 or 4 weeks of seeing them in pre-season training.
And we thought overall that Kepa was going to be the number one goalkeeper. We thought that was the simple bit, yeah? No, right, no. Worry about everything else.
He still will be.
Kepa's going to be your number one, but there's reports that Robert Sanchez could be making the move, Shaka, to Stamford Bridge.
But Chelsea needed another goalkeeper, with Mendy headed now to Saudi Arabia, as so many other players have. And I think Robert Sanchez, especially the reported price of $25 million, I think is an outstanding purchase. Now, I question whether Kepa was really the solution for Chelsea long term. I think Robert Sanchez coming in, and as much as right now is being packaged as a goalkeeper to push Kepa, I think if I'm Sanchez, I'm thinking a whole lot more. The most surprising thing about this, that I just mentioned, is $25 million for a goalkeeper who I thought, especially when you see David Raya going or reportedly going to Arsenal for some $40 million. That's 1.5 times the price that Sanchez is. I didn't think there was that big a difference between the two. So from a Chelsea perspective, I think this is outstanding business at that price for a goalkeeper of that quality. And again, I think he has every chance, or certainly more chance, of being the starting goalkeeper over Kepa than Raya has of being over Ramsdale, which we discussed a couple of days ago.
You're shaking your head?
Well, unfortunately, he's a good goalkeeper, but he lost his place in Brighton's team last year to Luke Steele.
Yeah.
Because the new manager came in and didn't like whatever he was doing. So that's why I think he's moved on. He realised he wasn't going to be the number one at Brighton, and it's better off being a number two that's got a chance of being the number one. Because Kepa I think will start as number one, but if he doesn't play well, then Sanchez can come in and maybe do a good job.
Jason Steele.
Jason Steele rather than Luke Steele.
Top four, Chelsea?
No.
No, it's tricky to make any arguments. We've been asked for our top six. You think, well, do you even put them in that far up? No, you'd have to answer now. I'm just saying.
I think you probably do. I think because you're still... Tottenham are an unknown quantity. I think it's between them and Newcastle.
Shaka,
really.
you look at it
How
and
can you have Newcastle?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Shaka, it's interesting
Seriously.
looking at the bookies that, in fact, Chelsea are favoured to finish top 4 over Newcastle.
I think that's just because the expectation is Chelsea are going to continue spending a little haphazardly as they well had been. I mean, they've made some good signings this summer, but before that, we all questioned a lot of Chelsea spending. And while again Newcastle has spent in a couple of departments, they probably won't match Chelsea. But all that being said, I think that's what the bookies are looking at. From my perspective, I think Newcastle are well ahead of Chelsea in terms of finishing top 4. I think they're ahead of a couple others. For me, I'm thinking City, Manchester City, Arsenal. I'm thinking Liverpool and Newcastle in my top 4. Of course, we still have a long way to go before the end of the season, but right now, I think that's how we're positioned.